Hello and welcome to the debate. I'm your host Sana Maqbool with you at PTV WORLD. In today's show, we will be taking a look at two stories. The first is with reference to the IMF bailout package, which has been agreed upon by the parties, the IMF, and of course the Pakistani delegation as well. And there have been a number of measures that the government has taken with regards to the IMF demands previously as well, which includes increase in petroleum prices, changes in tax rate slabs, and of course also with regards to the salaries and pensions that had been allocated in the previous budget as well. We're going to be taking a look at this particular agreement and then of course moving forward how it's going to be taken on board by the Pakistani government and how the economy is going to get impacted at that. These of course are the reports that have been coming in with regards to the talks that have reached a conclusion between the IMF and Pakistan. We still have to see an official agreement coming out from the IMF, which is after the signing of which we will be able to proceed further. So we're going to be taking a look at that and then of course how it's going to affect the economy. In our second segment, we will be taking a look at what has happened in Afghanistan. An unfortunate incident has occurred with regards to an earthquake, a 6.1 magnitude earthquake that has struck Afghanistan, resulting in the loss of about 1,000 people and more than 600 injured. And this, of course, is devastating for a country already dealing with a lot in terms of the humanitarian crisis and, of course, other challenges since the Taliban regime has taken control of the area. We've also seen that Pakistan, of course, has, as usual, extended their assistance and they have also expressed their condolences with the people of Afghanistan. The Chairman, Joint Chiefs of Staff Committee has also expressed his condolences and has talked about how any sort of assistance by Pakistan will be provided. Similarly, the Foreign Office has also issued a statement giving in to the Afghanistan community and saying that Pakistan will be standing with the brethren in Afghanistan, as well as the Prime Minister, who's expressed a lot of grief over the loss of precious lives and extended all possible support to Afghanistan. So we'll be taking a look at the challenges in the aftermath of this earthquake and what all Pakistan can do in this regard. For this and more, of course, as usual, I've been joined in the studios by Farrukh Pitafi and Raja Faisal. And for our first segment with regards to the IMF package, we have been joined online by Rana Ehsan Afzal Khan, leader at PMLN. Thank you very much, Rana Saab, for joining us. Unfortunately, due to dearth of time, I'll be asking you one question with regards to this deal, and we'll try to encapsulate everything in the 5 minutes that we have at the moment. So far, we have been hearing different reports coming in as to what all has been agreed. Can you give us a clear idea of the kind of measures that have been agreed upon, particularly with regards to tax rates, salaries, and of course petroleum prices as well? And then, of course, proceeding forward, the kind of impact it's going to have in terms of other countries as well, supporting their assistance to Pakistan, and then in the economy and inflation in general.
Thank you so much. So I think we've almost closed down the deal, and there was discussion on the fiscal and the new target should increase by 422 billion, and that there is agreement on that. IMF has agreed to. We feel that we can achieve that target. Similarly, on the monetary side, the interest rate policy, they are in discussion with the state bank, and they will reach an understanding there as well. Uh, on the petroleum side, we feel that 5 rupees per month, the petroleum levy is going to be applied, and it will go all the way up to 50 rupees. But that does not necessarily mean that the petroleum prices will go up, because if as we're seeing that the international rates are dropping, so by them dropping, the levy would automatically, if you do not take the rates down, the government could be earning. So that is dependent on the international scenario of the commodity prices and overall.
And GST
Overall,
as well,
I
sir.
think,
And GST
and
as well.
and
11%.
and GST as well. But then again, it is dependent. If we see that the crude oil prices keep falling, then maybe the need to increase the prices will not be there. But let me tell you that why this was a must, and why we should have a sign of relief, even though all these measures are going to be inflationary, and there's going to be a burden. We're going to see that there's going to be double digit inflation. But the fact is that where we're standing today, that is almost $9 billion of reserves, and that too, what are spendable are even less, that we will be out of a balance of payment crisis, and there will be stability on the macroeconomic front, which was of utmost importance. So that first challenge that this government was facing is about to close. And similarly, there is good news that three Chinese banks, consortium banks, have signed the 2.3 billion loan agreement. And in the coming few days, we'll see that inflow coming into the reserves as well. So yes, these are tough decisions, which were supposed to be taken maybe 18 months back. And we saw the PTI government getting into the IMF program, taking their money, and then taking a U-turn on the commitments. And
Right.
this
Sana,
repetition
if
seen in
I'm
the
allowed
last
a
18
micro
months.
question, I
Absolutely.
understand that we are running out of time.
Go ahead.
But sir, you just pointed out that if the prices internationally, crude prices actually fall and continue to fall, the inflationary pressure will be less. The question is it not the usual trap of an optimistic policy maker that things are going to go your way? There's always a possibility of disruption. What are you going to do then?
Then, but the fact is, Patafi Saab, that we are a poor country. We have to take these decisions to get out of the balance of payment crisis. And if things don't go our way and commodity prices keep rising, then there's going to be more trouble for the economy. We will try to mitigate it the best we can, but we live in this world, and we cannot run away from the fact that there is a super commodity price cycle, which is currently happening in this world, which was not seen even in the COVID period. We saw inflation almost going to zero in some countries during the initial COVID period, and then it rose. But right now, we are seeing historic levels of commodity prices, which are unseen before. So yes, this is an ordinary time in the world. There is a war going on between Russia and Ukraine, which has made
That we may have at the moment. But I want to understand that will the people of Pakistan also be able to go about the well too bad approach? Because, of course, at the end of the day, they're suffering.
Have you worked out the pain threshold of the common man?
And if we talk about the loan we are taking from the Chinese banks, what's the interest rate on it, please?
We have unfortunately lost contact with Rana Saab. We only had time for about 5 minutes. But Farrukh, you can take Rana Saab's question.
Interest rate.
Yeah.
How would I know? This is the report has just broken. Come on. Yeah, I can talk about economics and indicators.
Yeah,
but I'm not only scientist, right? I cannot actually tell you what exactly is happening just now.
Okay, can you tell me that will there be any possible hope for relief in the near future?
I think at this moment, the truth, Sana, is that we are between a hard place and a rock, and we are in a difficult situation. Right. So at this moment, what we need to do is, first of all, take care of the fear of default. And I think that thanks to China, thanks to the IMF, thanks to other donors and friends who are going to step in shortly, we are going to actually mitigate that crisis or that fear. Once that is done, then the government, of course, is focusing on long and medium term growth. When it happens, the government is able to pass on the relief to the common man.
Yes.
All right. Faisal, let me just also introduce in the show Ambassador of Islamic Republic of Pakistan to Afghanistan, Mr. Mansoor Ahmed Khan, who's joined us for the second segment with regards to the earthquake in Afghanistan. We'll be moving on to a small package that our team has prepared and continue our discussion. Well, you saw the images of the devastation that has occurred in Afghanistan due to the 6.1 magnitude earthquake that has struck the region. And of course, Pakistan has expressed its grief and its condolences to the people of Afghanistan and continues to stand with the Afghanistan brethren in this time of need and has offered all assistance possible. Mr. Mansoor Ahmad Khan, the ambassador of Pakistan in Afghanistan, is with us online. Thank you very much for taking the time out and being part of the debate. Mr. Mansoor Ahmad, when we look at the situation, of course, in Afghanistan, currently we've heard and gotten reports of many lives that have been lost. A lot of people have been injured, and there's of course a lot of destruction to property as well. It's already a difficult time that the people of Afghanistan are going through, and this earthquake has of course also added to the miseries of the people. Can you help us understand the scale of this devastation and the kind of assistance that the Embassy of Pakistan is extending to the people in Afghanistan?
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum and good evening to all the viewers of Pakistan Television. This morning, when Afghans woke up, when they received this sad news of a terrible earthquake, 6.1 magnitude earthquake that hit Afghanistan's certain parts of Afghanistan, particularly the provinces of Paktika, Paktia, and Khost. And some of the districts in these, there were reports that some of the districts in these provinces were very seriously affected. This was a 6.1 magnitude earthquake. According to initial reports, more than 200 or 300 people had died, but by afternoon, then more reports came, and unfortunately, the people who have died, the number according to various reports has increased 1,000, and some of the authorities who are involved in the groundwork, they have indicated that and I also had meetings with relevant Afghan ministries and institutions, and they have also indicated, they have also expressed apprehension that unfortunately the number of casualties may rise. So this has been a serious, a big earthquake. It has caused a lot of destruction, and around the same time, unfortunately, in various parts of Afghanistan, there are torrential rains causing floods. So this is a time of extreme pain, suffering, and hardship for the Afghan people because of these natural calamities. And Pakistan, Prime Minister of Pakistan sent his message of condolences and offer of support by government of Pakistan in terms of relief and humanitarian assistance. Ministry of Foreign Affairs also issued a statement of solidarity with the Afghans at this time of need. I also had a meeting in the morning with Deputy Foreign Minister Sher Stanakzai of Afghan interim government, and I offered all the help that Pakistan
Right. Ambassador sir, let me ask you this question. When
Yes.
it comes to the help that Afghanistan needs, do we have any assistance as to any assessment as to what can Pakistan do for Afghanistan, and what can the world community do at this moment?
And also how, because we understand this was also something that was discussed with regards to the kind of humanitarian crisis that Afghanistan is already facing since the Taliban has taken over, and we really haven't really developed a framework as to how to go about it. What are the channels that can be used?
The world.
That was the purpose of my immediate meeting with Afghan Deputy Foreign Minister, and in the afternoon I also met Afghan National Disaster Management Minister to ascertain the assessment of needs, and so that assistance could be provided to the Afghan government, Afghan authorities, Afghan institutions according to their needs in different areas. They have indicated immediately, as you know, always happens in the case of earthquakes and post-earthquake situations, that populations, communities, affected population and communities are in need of tents, blankets, food stuff, and medicines. And government of Pakistan has immediately dispatched these relief goods in trucks through the border crossing points of Angur Adda and Ghulam Khan, which are nearest to these places. And then we will also be providing more assistance in the coming days as the extent of damage will be clear. And international community has also offered all kind of assistance and support to Afghanistan. And we will see as to how Pakistan can also facilitate in channeling international assistance to Afghanistan.
Exactly, sir. Ambassador Mansoor, sir, we know obviously Pakistan has extensive experience and of administration during all of these calamities. And if we look at today's de facto government of Taliban, in Afghanistan. Of course, they have been for years busy in the security sector, not in the administrator sector. So if we look at today's Afghanistan and their administration, I don't think they will be able to cope with it, and that is why this morning they have contacted in Kabul obviously the UN family, UNICEF and everyone to help the Taliban administration out there. And we know that there is a large number of UN services that can be provided from Islamabad to Kabul as well. So is there a sort of a mechanism that can ensure that Pakistan can play its role when it comes to United Nations helping, as Taliban has already asked for the international help?
And Ambassador Saab, when you were talking about the relief provision to Afghanistan, you were particularly talking about the land routes. But I believe that whenever earthquake takes place, usually the first thing is to rescue people from the rubble. Can Pakistan also help in that through any kind of aerial support?
Yeah. First of all, in response to the first question, when the political change happened in Afghanistan in the last August, on 15th August 2021, most of the people, trained people who were working for the previous regime, left Afghanistan or left their ministries. And in the subsequent months, Afghanistan faced a shortage of capacity building, trained manpower, and there also Pakistan and many other countries and international community has been helping Afghanistan in recent months in terms of capacity building. And we have provided capacity building to, we are in the process of providing training and capacity building to Afghan institutions in various fields. And one of those institutions is Afghan National Disaster Management Authority. So today, Afghan National Disaster Management Authority has some level of preparedness, and I also met their minister this afternoon. And we have also offered that apart from relief during this disaster or this as a result of this earthquake, we also will be providing them trainings in and experience sharing with Pakistani relevant institutions, which is Pakistan's National Disaster Management Authority, which has acquired very useful experience. But to your question about other ways of help apart from commodity assistance, apart from provision of medicines and other things, Pakistan is also planning to establish a field hospital, and that field hospital will be taking care of any kind of illnesses or sicknesses that appear because normally in the post-disaster situations. So we are also exploring as to how we can help in establishing field hospitals, and then we will also be providing or offering our assistance in terms of reconstruction of these areas, as we had an experience in terms of 2005 earthquake in Pakistan.
Absolutely, and that sounds wonderful, Ambassador Saab. The kind of measures that you're talking about, they're very important as well. But I want to understand, since there are a large number of people, of course, who also got injured in this, the current capacity of the medical care system in Afghanistan at the moment, the hospitals that currently exist, because, of course, there are long-term measures that can be taken with regards to the field hospital that you're talking about, or, of course, the trainings, and then, of course, the rebuilding of the places that have been damaged. But immediately, can we perhaps, in terms of doctors or nurses or staff, in terms of in terms of building the capacity of the current hospitals, beds or other medicines or any other aspects that are required with regards to the injured, can that be immediately provided? And what really, in your assessment, is the current status of the hospitals in Afghanistan?
Current state of hospitals and medical facilities in Afghanistan's urban areas, even in Afghanistan's urban areas, is not up to the mark, and they face severe problems in terms of providing adequate medical treatment to the people around those areas. And these areas where earthquake has happened, post Paktika and Paktia, they are the condition of hospitals naturally is not very good. That is why Pakistan's focus as a closest neighbor has been on provision of medical assistance. In addition to Pakistan, there are other organizations like ICRC, like WHO, and like UNDP, who are also focusing their attention on taking care of medical needs of the people. It is a time of calamity, it is a big disaster, but we have to do whatever is possible in while also taking note of the limitations of present political situation in Afghanistan.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Ambassador Mansoor, please help the world understand what kind of terrain we are talking about. Paktika, of course, to me, I think it's a mountainous region. And if we talk about the infrastructure, the basic infrastructure to get there, it is very odd and very bad, in a very bad condition. So I just wanted to ask, is it the reason that it took the world to come to know about it for like 5-6 hours? Nobody knew what has happened out there, but later on, obviously, people started talking about it. But in the night, 1 o'clock in the night, it took place, and in the morning, people started getting to know about it. So is it the case that the infrastructure is very bad? And of course, in that, as Pakistan's armed forces has offered to help, it means that maybe Pakistan's aviation services, they will be helping out, and of course United Nations own aviation service can help out there as well. So the world needs to know about it, and if you can elaborate it further.
I think you have pointed out at a very relevant fact. Afghanistan-Pakistan border, which comprises almost 2,600 kilometers. This is the eastern part of the border, and this is one of the most difficult mountainous terrains on our border. So infrastructure and communication linkages are severely strained, and that was one of the factors that the world didn't know about this incident or this natural calamity even after many hours. And it was only in the morning when people learned about it, and then initially the estimates were that maybe 200 to 300 people have died in this in this earthquake. But later, unfortunately, we found that number of casualties is much more than that. So this is infrastructure challenges are one of the reasons. And in such situations, Pakistan is the closest neighbor. On the other side of the border is Pakistan. So Pakistan is well placed to assist them. In such situations in the past, we have been providing assistance through C-130s who bring relief assistance, and I'm sure Pakistani authorities are working on that. As an immediate step, we have dispatched assistance through trucks, which will be reaching Afghanistan later in the night or early in the morning. So the supply of provisions will start from in a few hours, but then we will have to focus on all the routes, land route as well as the air route, for helping the people, helping the affected people.
Right. Ambassador Sahab, you spoke about a lack of infrastructure, and perhaps that was a contributing factor regarding how the world did not know the full scale of this earthquake. But you earlier actually pointed out another thing that was very important. Torrential floods are also wreaking havoc. Now the question is, while earthquake might be a sudden thing, those floods have been building up for some time, and there must be a lot of displacement and a lot of casualty numbers must be there as well. Is it only because of lack of access that the world doesn't notice it, or perhaps the world has just started zoning out and stopped focusing away from Afghanistan?
Torrential rains and torrential floods are also because of the wider climate changes which are affecting our region. And we have seen that because of those climate changes in Bamiyan, which is one of the provinces in central Afghanistan, they have received snowfall yesterday. So the fields were white yesterday, and I saw pictures on Afghan media and social media, and I was really astonished that in this month of June, there is snowfall in this part of Afghanistan. It's a cold weather part, but still in June you don't experience snow. So one of the reasons for these torrential floods, and we see more of them in Pakistan and adjoining countries also, is wider effect of climate change. And therefore it is important that when the governments of these countries, Afghanistan, Pakistan and other neighboring countries, when they make their own development policies, they should focus on sustainable development, environment free development. I mean,
Absolutely,
development.
and that's a very important point, Ambassador Saab. Another effect that I want to understand over here is, of course, because we've also dealt with earthquakes at home, and there have been long-term impacts on the people, and then, of course, the different areas that have been affected as well. And Afghanistan, of course, since already is dealing with so many different crises, this, of course, adds to their problems. In the overall scale as to how much we have information and how much we understand the situation on the ground as of now, what is your assessment in terms of the kind of time that this is going to take in terms of dealing with the people that have been affected, with, of course, the areas that have been affected, and what sort of larger consequences exist both in terms of increased damage and then, of course, rehabilitation of such people, because a lot of them may be displaced as well?
We have seen that destruction brought by earthquakes is more lasting and more permanent than maybe as compared to other natural calamities such as floods, where the destruction is more short term. In cases of destructive earthquakes, even in Pakistan, we have seen villages and towns have been destroyed, and in this earthquake in Afghanistan also, the assessment will be undertaken in the coming days and weeks. But we believe that a lot of reconstruction work will be required, a lot of resources will be required, and Afghanistan facing a peculiar political situation where there are financial restrictions, economic sanctions on Afghanistan. I think international community will have to rethink about how to deal with this crisis and how to bring Afghanistan, out of these crises which have been continuing in the country and affecting the people.
Sir, earlier you have mentioned that, of course, the Paktika side and where the center of the earthquake is right next to on the borders of Pakistan, and we know that this is the bordering area where one village from the other side is a relative village of another village that is inside the borders of Pakistan. So of course they are married to each other, people are married to each other, they are relatives of each other, and in this situation a dire condition is out there, and of course there will be an influx of refugees coming to Pakistan as well. Is Pakistan ready for that, number one? And number two, are they, the institutions like United Nations, the organizations like UNICEF and UNHCR, are they aware of it in Pakistan as well, that in the bordering areas there will be an influx of refugees from the other side?
You are right that this is a long border where same kind of tribes, same kind of people are living on both sides of the border, whether it is in some villages are in Afghanistan and some of their parts are in Pakistan. And this people have a long history of socio-economic connectivity through this border. Now, when this destruction, this tragedy has happened, of course, people will definitely be looking for safe places. And if international community and the neighboring countries, including Pakistan, can focus on provision of adequate shelter and adequate resources for them for recouping from this natural tragedy, I think then we will be able to avoid any big migration or any big refugee movement. So I think our first focus is not on assessing whether there will be need of migration or there will be any movement of refugees. Our first focus is on providing help to those people who have been affected. And
Absolutely.
I'm sure that the neighboring countries of Afghanistan, Pakistan is the first neighboring country because we are just next to the border. So we have to play our role in terms of providing them all the needed assistance and resettle them and reconstruct their destroyed villages.
Right. Ambassador Saab, of course, when the humanitarian crisis started in Afghanistan, there was also this similar kind of talks with regards to the world understanding and realizing the need of the hour. But of course, again, there were so many prerequisites to the kind of assistance that were being offered that the kind of urgency that the matter had and the help that was needed wasn't really translated down to the people. Are you hopeful that in the aftermath of this earthquake, the international community will rethink the way they're interacting with the people in Afghanistan?
And can you also give a broad ballpark number regarding how much money of dollars might be needed for overall Afghan needs right now? Because there must be estimates even before this tragedy.
I think it will take some more time to assess the exact amount of damages that has been caused by this earthquake. But I think the international community, the neighboring countries, Pakistan, other countries also. When I visited the Afghan Foreign Ministry, I was told that other international institutions, international community members, countries are also approaching them for provision of assistance, and the assistance will start coming to Afghanistan by early tomorrow. And I think that international community remains cognizant of the needs of Afghanistan because of this disaster. And I'm sure all these institutions like UNDP, WHO, ICRC, they have been helping Afghanistan since 15th August also in dealing with the humanitarian crisis that occurred because of the political change last year. They will. It is our belief that they will continue to provide assistance to Afghanistan to cope with this tragedy also.
Right. Ambassador Sahab, you have given a rough estimate regarding the number of casualties, somewhere around over 1,000. Is there a fear that this number can further escalate, sir?
Initially we had in the morning received a figure of around between 200 to 300. Some sources were saying 250, some sources were alluding at 280. But suddenly in the afternoon we learned that it is more than 1,000. And when I had meetings with Afghan senior officials, Afghan Deputy Foreign Minister in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, he actually pointed out towards this apprehension that the number could rise. So let's hope that casualties remain at the lowest possible.
Absolutely, that is the hope. Thank you. Thank you very much, Ambassador Mansoor Ahmad Khan, for joining us and being a part of the debate. Unfortunately, we don't have any more time, Faisal. Thank you very much, everyone, for watching the debate. And our hearts go out to our people in Afghanistan who are suffering at the moment. And we really hope that we can get out of this crisis sooner than later and the world actually responds to their voice. Thank you very much for watching the debate. We'll see you tomorrow.